Hello, and welcome to my channel. My name is Jonathan Cohn, and today I have a video talking about my favorite Star Wars cover artwork. Now, I don't talk about Star Wars cover art all that much in my videos. I've done multiple videos on fantasy cover artwork, but really, Star Wars, I've not dwelt as much on it. That's not because I don't care about Star Wars books. In fact, Star Wars is probably one of the most impactful parts of literature in my life. And also, Star Wars is what got me into reviewing books and talking about books online, and even this channel. The Star Wars is the backbone of this channel. So I do want to talk about them, but fantasy, I have more of a passion for fantasy covers because there's a very particular fantasy style that I like. And I have a video, I think a couple videos talking about fantasy artwork that I like. So check those out. Just look up fantasy book covers, Jonathan Cohn. I'm sure you'll find them online. As Brian Lee Durfee would say, they will magically appear on your screen. But today I'm talking about Star Wars book cover art. And at first I was thinking, I want to talk about 5 or 10 books. And so I started going through thinking of like a list of 10 Star Wars cover arts that were particularly good for me, ones that I particularly love. And then as I thought about this, it was hard to narrow down because there's so much Star Wars cover art I like. And then I started thinking about, how will I balance the list? Should I do an entire video for Canon? Should I do an entire video for Legends? Should I match them up? Should I see which ones I like more or less? I came up with this idea. I'm going to talk about 5 Legends books that I particularly love their cover arts, and 5 Canon novels that I particularly love the cover art. And I'm going to not necessarily rank them total. I'm just going to say these are the top 5. So they're somewhere in my top 5. I'm not particularly ranking them yet. So let's go ahead and start with the Legends books. I'll talk about the 5 Legends ones first and go through that. Then I'll talk about the 5 Canon cover arts. So my first cover artwork that I want to talk about is for Specter of the Past. This is a book that I really enjoy. From a duology, I really enjoy. But what particularly gets me is this Drew Struzan cover art. And Drew Struzan did some fantastic cover art for Star Wars movie posters and for Star Wars novels like this. And this book just exudes this feeling of classic Star Wars literature that this book series had. Timothy Zahn always writes excellent Star Wars books, but he has kind of different eras that he's written. You had the early era, which was his classic era. Then you had around the 2000s and early 2010s when he was in his kind of middle phase where he was just kind of writing different books that didn't always stick. Then you have had his recent phase, his canon phase, where he's written a bunch of Thrawn books that have almost all been amazing. This was towards the tail end of his classic phase, and this cover art just has that classic feeling. You got a Bothan on there. Hey, Canon, where's the Bothans? And you've got Luke and Leia and Han, and it has that pastel kind of artwork to it. Unfortunately, the cover art is covered up in the back, which is just awful. Why would you cover? I mean, I understand needing to put the print here, the words to sell the book. I understand that for marketing purposes. But you put the barcode on top of one of your ships. Move the barcode over. Move this around. You can finagle it. So that's a little bit disappointing. But I love this cover art. The next book I'm going to talk about is not a favorite book of mine by any stretch of the imagination. But it has this really interesting feeling of nostalgia that it evokes in me, and that's the Shadows of the Empire cover. Now, I think the back cover art is a little bit more the way the 90s Star Wars books were, but this front cover, and I apologize that it's a little bit torn, but this front cover with Palpatine, with Vader, with Luke, with a yellow lightsaber? What? And then you have Gizor on there. And this cover artwork with the style, with the kind of yellow lettering for Star Wars and then the blue lettering for Shadows of the Empire, it just evokes this feeling of nostalgia that works really well. And I don't even love this book that much, but I think that this cover art just feels like the... I don't want to use the word campy because people are going to think that's a negative connotation, but kind of campy feeling that this book had, which I really enjoyed. Next is a book cover that means quite a lot to me. personally, and that's the X-Wing Back to War cover. The X-Wing covers were pretty good. They weren't amazing, but they were pretty good. But this one, I think, is the best of them anyway, because I think the ship looks the best. I think the Star Destroyer looks the best. The X-Wings look the best in this cover art. However, it has a special place for me because I actually own a t-shirt that doesn't fit me as well right now, but I have a t-shirt that has this cover art on it. And I bought the t-shirt before I didn't buy it. My parents bought it for me, but I got the t-shirt before I was ever a Star Wars reader. So this was like a decade ago. And then I started getting into Star Wars books and I realized, wait a second, my t-shirt is from a book. And so when I read the book, I purposefully put on the t-shirt while reading it so that I could, have that extra nice feeling. And when I met Michael A. Stackpole, a couple of years ago at a convention, I was wearing the shirt, and he saw it and he loved it, and he signed my books. But this, I feel like this cover art just really is solid and really works for this story, and gets that kind of space warfare design really right. So I really enjoy it. Next is we talk about classic cover arts for Star Wars books. You can't get more classic than this, Heir to the Empire. This feels like a big painting that they cropped part of it and they decided to use as the cover art. And I would, sometimes with fantasy novels, I would want a full-blown painting of that in my house. I would love to hang that somewhere in my house. I don't have that often with Star Wars novels. I would love to have this. I think that Luke, Han, and Leia look great in this. The stormtroopers that are kind of orange and with the fire behind them look great. Thrawn here is menacing, but he's still kind of ominous. You have Sabaoth here. Jorus Sabaoth right here. You have Chewbacca. You have the droids on the cover. It just has a classic feeling. It feels like a nice big painting, and again, it evokes nostalgia really well. And so I think that this is an effective and in my opinion, one of the best Star Wars cover arts. And the new covers are, they're not horrible, they're not bad, but you just can't compete. And to me, I'm like, why would you change it? I don't have a problem with you slapping a Legends line or Essential Legends or whatever you want to call it, but why would you change the cover art when it was so darn good? I think it's because publishers are afraid of classic paintings because they think they have to get modern art styles for modern audiences, and you don't. I think that you can keep the classic feeling. So my final EU cover art to discuss is for another Timothy Zahn. He won out this one. But this is for Outbound Flight. Yes, I love the Outbound Flight cover art because you have a perfect image of what Outbound Flight looked like, and you just understand the massiveness behind it, that these are like capital ships here, and then you have this big core that's carrying the people and the stuff, and then you have these other ships on here, and then you wrap around to the back, and you have a Chiss. Is it Thrawn? We don't know. He looks menacing right here, and it just gets the sense of wonder that this book has. And I think that this is just an excellent example of how to sell a book just on the cover art alone. So those are 5 EU or Legends novels that I particularly love the cover art. Let's go into the canon, which there are some great cover art in the canon as well. There's some not so great cover art. First, I'm going to go with a very obvious one, which for me would be Light of the Jedi. I know some people don't like the High Republic. I'm enjoying most of it, but there's parts of it I don't enjoy. But this cover art, you have a full painting view. The Jedi just look regal and resplendent and look powerful and at the top of their game, and the lightsabers are bright. Sometimes the lightsabers are kind of dim on some cover arts, but they're bright here. The character faces aren't shadowed too much. In some ways they're shadowed, but they still work. You have multiple alien species on there, humans. You've got Starlight Beacon. It kind of gives you the tone of the High Republic. It has this kind of yellow coloring that kind of sells the feeling that this era has. This is a very good cover art that I really love. Another good cover art, but it's very different style, is the Master and Apprentice cover from by Claudia Gray, and I am forgetting who did the cover art for this one. And I'm going to quickly look at it in here, and it does not say. Let me look here. Alice X. Zhang. That's who did the cover art. Well, Alice did a great job with this cover art. It looks, I call this pastel coloring. I really like the pastel here. And even though the back doesn't have much, it carries on the pastel design, that kind of etched design in some ways. But it's just, this just feels classic, maybe not, and it feels such a nice pastel coloring. This is also one I would not mind having this cover art in my house. Now we talk about having effective cover art that sells the book. This was the first Star Wars novel I ever bought, and that's Lords of the Sith. And I bought it because of the cover. You got Vader, you got the Emperor, you got lightning, you got stormtroopers, you got AT-ATs, you got Star Destroyers, you got Rebel fighters down here. I mean, what's not to love on this cover art? This sold the idea, we're getting a dark side book, and they're gonna kick butt. I mean, how do you not love this kind of cover art? This, again, sells effectively what the book is selling. It shows you exactly what you need to know, and it's like, hey, you want to read a Star Wars book about bad guys? Here's a Star Wars book about bad guys. It's just so effective. Next, I have an effective book that is totally different in style, but still really works well. And that's The Catalyst, a Rogue One novel cover art. Now, I'm not a simplistic cover art fan. I'm not. 9 times out of 10, I'm like, it looks garbage. I don't like that cover art. Give me full paintings and stuff like that. This is an example where minimalism is okay because, boy, is it effective here. You have the Death Star on here, which this book is all about the creation of the Death Star, specifically about the laser. But it's about the creation of the Death Star and the friendship between Krennic and Erso. And they could have put Krennic and Erso on the cover, and that would have also sold what the book was. But this book tells you this is a Catalyst novel. That's about the Death Star. It also connects to Rogue One, which I think was very effective marketing. And when you see that little dot right there, that might be a little bit hard to see, but you can see a Star Destroyer right there. You see how small it is in comparison to the greater Death Star. That just shows how massive the Death Star is. I mean, that's just, I think, incredibly clever cover art, which is why it works so well. Now, the number 5 spot was tough. There were a few honorable mentions in the canon. I nearly included the Thrawn covers, specifically for the first book, specifically the black one that I have. I also almost put on Black Spire, but I ended up going with The Princess and the Scoundrel, which goes back to that pastel coloring that Master and Apprentice had, that has kind of a sweeping romance style to it. This almost feels like it could have been a movie poster. I've seen so many people, so many actors and actresses and like cosplayers try to reenact this image. So it's very kind of iconic. And the way that the yellow and the green and the blue all work together, and you have the stormtroopers down here and what looks like Elsa's castle down here, and you have the Ewok village. It's just a beautiful painting, and I think it's just lovely. And I really enjoyed this book anyway, so that helped sell what the book was about. But again, of cover art, it has to do one thing: sell your book. It has to promote your book. They say don't judge a book by its cover, and cover artists go, no, yes, we do. We want it to judge a book by its cover. We want you to buy the book because you like the cover. But cover art also can have a tertiary or secondary value, which is it just has such a nice feel to it that it brings back memories of the book, and these cover arts do that. So those are the cover arts I wanted to talk about. If you have favorite cover arts for Star Wars books, Legends or Canon, let me know what those are down below. Do you agree with some of my picks? Do you hate some of my picks? Let me know that too. I can take it. I would be interested to see if people hate some of this cover art. I know one book in this list that people probably don't like the cover art for, but I want to see if that is the case. But that is my list, and until next time, I'm Jonathan, and thank you for watching.